All right, man. So it looks like we got some breaking news. So we have the first poll conducted with any field dates that were post the DNC, the Democratic National Convention. So what we know here is that TV ratings, Democratic Convention closes with 26 million viewers, edging the RNC final night. So it edged it pretty hard. It was able to beat it, I think, in viewers every single night. And I think the RNC kind of had like a big boost with Trump in it. But what we're seeing is this is the very first poll that we have coming out. And so now it has a new general election poll. It's Harris 47, Trump 42. This is a +5 boost. This is from a pollster called Angus Reid. A really weird combination, by the way. I think of like a steak. But Angus and Reid just don't go very well together, so kind of bizarre. But 1788 registered voters, and this is dated 8/23. So the first date after the DNC was 8/23 that's in there. So they actually have a post-DNC numbers. But I think it's also important that it was conducted during the DNC, because even the numbers during the DNC is also just as important as after, right? But what we can see here is, so this is actually a surge for Kamala Harris. So it says, this Angus Reid national poll is the first poll with any fieldwork conducted after DNC Friday, though most of it was during. Harris 47%, Trump 42%. It was 44-42 Harris 1 month ago. So we can see this poll. It says DNC bump, Harris extends lead over Trump with base built on youth vote. So it says new data taken during the Democratic National Convention from the nonprofit Angus Reid Institute finds Kamala Harris extending her national lead over Donald Trump among registered voters. The current vice president has a base built of support from 18 to 34-year-olds, 59% Harris to 30% Trump, blacks 67% to 16%, and Hispanics 57% to 33%. Trump, meanwhile, is the preferred choice among those older than 54, 49 to 40, and whites 51 to 39. So this is pretty interesting. What we know is that she's getting a big surge with double haters, people who really hate Biden and who hate Trump. Her power is kind of like a series of like a sum of like terms of a sequence, a hate sequence, like H1 plus H2 or whatever. But pretty much what's going on here is she's pulling a lot of the young voters and stuff. But to be fair, these numbers still need a lot of work, and hopefully they will get a lot of work. Like, you do need to go higher than 57 with Hispanics to win. You definitely need higher than 67 with blacks. And then you also want to get higher with 18 to 34-year-olds. And so we can see this here. So it says, in data taken during the Democratic National Convention, Harris has widened her lead over Trump by picking up some previously undecided voters. So we can see this breakdown in bar graph form. So what you can see here is presidential vote intent registered voters. So we have 9% undecided. This is July 24th, so a month ago. 5% neither, 42% for Donald Trump, and 44% for Kamala Harris. What we can see is it shifts. The support for Kamala Harris goes up by 3. Trump support is unchanged. The neither or other is unchanged. And we can see that the undecided voters has gone down by 4. So the sum, I think, does add up to 100 or close to it. But what this tells us is, again, this kind of confirms what we're saying, right? She's picking up the people who are undecided between her and Trump, who are so-called double haters between Biden and Trump. And so you can see that this has dropped. Now, this is from July 24th, so likely there's definitely some of the surge is going to be also due to just stuff independent of the DNC, but it's just breaking because we have like our first poll that has any field work after the DNC, and it was conducted some of the days during the DNC. And so we can also kind of see some of the, I think we can find some of the favorable ratings here of the candidates. The favorable ratings is pretty interesting to see. So we can see, do you generally have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of? This is also a really important metric that's really, really important for Kamala Harris. Her numbers are really, really good right now. So she's at like 50.8% favorable and like 45% unfavorable. And a crazy thing that's happening right now is her unfavorable is actually dropping. It's going down. So as voters are getting to know her more, they're losing unfavorability. It's crazy, even now. And so I think if it's a position where Kamala's still above 50, she's above water, and then Trump goes down to like 42, 43, I think at that point it's impossible to win. I don't think it's happened in recent history where someone was above 50, the other one's lower, and the other one wins. Maybe if he's in like the 45s or something, maybe he can still pull it out. But if he gets down to 42, which I hope he will, I think it's done. But you see for Harris, the favorability from July 24th to August 24th, we can see that 25% to 28%, so we have a 3% jump in very favorability. We see that favorable has gone down by 2. Maybe some of those people are going here. And then you have unfavorable dropping. This again with our trend, right? So 10% unfavorable down to 9%, so an unfavorability drop. We also see that the very unfavorable numbers also drop by 1, and then we have the don't know, can't say is 6. And then we have for Trump, his don't know is the same, his very unfavorable went up, his unfavorable went up, and then his favorable went up by 1, but his very favorable went down by 3. So she has some kind of, I think because of how much people hated Biden, I think it actually helped Trump, obviously, even in his personal numbers. So his numbers are going down, Kamala's are going up. But the craziest part is, man, I mean, her unfavorables are dropping, which is nuts. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And the fact that this is kind of still here, this 6% didn't move, I think it tells us there's still a lot there to gain for Kamala Harris. Because if we look at these poll numbers, if we kind of analyze these numbers, I actually had gotten kind of scared, I'm not going to lie, because she obviously is surging here. But what you see is she kind of ends up hitting, I thought she hit a snag, and I think she did, right? But around this point where it hits 2.8, you know, it goes down to 2.7, down to 2.6, up 2.9, down to 2.6, down to 2.5, 2.6, 2.9. And so she's still basically at the same spot. She goes down 2.8 again. So from August 20th to the 12th, which is 8 days, and I know you're thinking, 8 days, that's not a long time. Dude, there's like 70 days left to the election. You know how many days that is in comparison? It's like more than a tenth or whatever, right? That's a significant amount of days, right? We don't have that much time till the election. But she's broken through the snag now. She's broken through. She's hit new plateaus. Kind of like when you're losing weight, you know? You're like losing weight, you know, you kind of hit a plateau, but then you start losing weight again eventually at some point, right? So what we have here is she's broken through. She goes up by 3.3 on the 21st, goes up by 33.6 on the 22nd, and up on 3.7. It's gone down, I think, to 3.6 on the 24th, but it's effective in the same area. And you can even see here, if you just look at the line, there's kind of like a up, down, up, like just like not much, but then it's just breaking through. And you can see Trump is also falling off. So what's going on is there's a honeymoon period. And so what's actually also happening is, so it says, Trump pollster predicts post-convention poll bump and extended honeymoon for Harris. This former President Donald Trump's campaign is bracing for more unfavorable polling news in the days to come. A memo from Trump pollsters Tony Fabrizio, and this is the only pollsters that'll show Trump in the lead in sometimes, and Travis Tunis, sent out by the Trump campaign Saturday, predicts a convention bump in the polls after the DNC for Vice President Kamala Harris. Quote, post-DNC will likely see another small, albeit temporary, you gotta appease Hitler. Hey, it's just temporary, bro. Don't worry. Not gonna be a long time. Don't worry. Bounce for Harris in the public polls. Post-convention bounces are a phenomenon that happens after most party conventions, the memo says. So don't be surprised to see Harris get a temporary 2 to 3 point bump, it added. In July, Fabrizio wrote he expected a honeymoon period for Harris after she replaced President Joe Biden on the Democratic ticket, a prediction that has certainly come to pass. Before ending his re-election campaign, Biden's support in CNN polls registered at 45%, behind Trump at 49%. Heading into convention, the race has shifted, with Harris at 50 and Trump at 48, the CNN polls found. He blames it on positive media coverage, but honestly, a lot of the coverage isn't even positive. A lot of the fact checks are doing like fake fact checks now, and they'll be like, oh, Kamala slightly leads, and she's up by like 5. But on the topic of DNC boosts, the Democratic National Convention, there is typically seen boost, so it's actually gone down historically now. But Biden got 0, but that's because if you look at Biden's numbers, he was already so high. I don't know exactly when it was actually the DNC that year. 17 through 20 says it here, so we can look at his numbers here. In the aggregate, they were already so massive. He's already up by 8 points. I mean, it's unfathomable. So like going higher than that is really tough. But he got 0, Trump gets 1, Hillary gets 2, Trump gets 3, Obama gets 2, Mitt Romney gets -1, Obama 4, McCain 6, John Kerry -1, 2, and from here there's a lot higher of boosts. So the boost has kind of died off. But the one thing that I mistook when I sort of gave the analysis, I thought Kamala wasn't really going to surge much. But I mistook how much of an unknown quantity she is. So I thought a lot of people knew what value she was, like, you know, a specific number, like 2. But apparently she's like a variable that people didn't know about. I thought she was the vice president. She got a lot of, you know, press coverage, etc. She ran for president. I thought like people would know her. But because she's kind of an unknown quantity, I think the floor for her, you know what I mean? I don't know if I want to say like a supremum or something like that. Well, that wouldn't make sense. But anyways, for having like a 2 point, right? Like your sort of, you know, least bound, right? Least upper bound is like 2. You can't possibly have less than 2. I think because Hillary and Obama got them here and they're known quantities more so than Kamala was. And then she's already getting this huge like honeymoon period. And so what I think is going to happen is she's probably going to get a 2 to 4 point boost from the DNC, I think. And I think nationally what's going to end up happening is throughout the month of September, she'll probably continue to get gains. I'm thinking she'll do well in the debate against Trump as well. So maybe she'll be able to get a boost from there too. But I think by the time we get into October, this probably gets into like 5 or 6 points plus nationally. But October, I think, is going to be the scary period because by that point, the honeymoon should wear off. And then now you're in for like whatever October surprise can pop up where it's like, oh man, like what's going to happen? You know, your WikiLeaks or your Trump taxes being leaked or whatever. So I think October is really where they have to worry. I think September is going to be really free flowing unless the debate goes really horribly, which there's not any evidence to predict that. But I think the honeymoon will extend all pretty much throughout September. She'll continue to rise. October is the scary point where it's like, all right, you've kind of eaten up all that you can. You've gotten all the potential voters you can. And now it's like, oh, shoot, what can take me down now? And, you know, the Gaza situation and maybe Ukraine or Iran or whatever. There's a bunch of stuff like that, how things are going to end up going. But, yeah, Kamala Harris, she is surging in the first post-DNC poll, the first DNC poll to have it post. She surged up 3 points. Trump really low at 42. I think Harris still has numbers that she can pull out. So would love to see the numbers continue to go up. So, yeah.